Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching us from. My name is Kelvin Chanda Chishimba in Indianapolis, Indiana. Today is August 21st, 2022. It's 9 a.m. in Indianapolis and 3 p.m. Zambian time. Today's show, we are hosting Mr. Wamunyema Nyambe, who is a coordinator for the Western Province Tourism Investments and Trade Expo, which takes place in Mongu, Zambia from September 19th to September 25th, 2022. Mr. Nyambe, welcome to TV Backward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chimba, and good morning. It's good afternoon over here.
Yes, it's good afternoon over there. Okay, great. So we're having the Western Province Expo. You are one of the coordinators, I believe. And it's my understanding that the expo is under the theme Rapid Economic Transformation through increased home growth, entrepreneurship, value addition, and trade. So kindly share with our viewers what the objectives of the expo are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chimba, for the opportunity to appear on Wakwetu TV, and good afternoon to. Oh, did I say good afternoon? It should be good morning to the host, to the viewers. Now, the objectives of the expo really, in a nutshell, is to promote investment in Western Province. That's the general objective, one would say. But one of the objectives is to showcase investment opportunities that we have in the Western Province. The background to that objective is when you look at the statistics at the moment, it would show you that it's either Wapula Province or Western Province that occupy the position of being the poorest province in Zambia. Now, the case we are trying to put across through this expo is that statistic has no scientific justification. When you look at the resource endowment that Western Province has, so we are contending in a way to say, how can a province so rich in terms of resource endowment be so occupy such statistics when it comes to economics? So the objective really is to showcase the opportunities that lie in Western Province, to share knowledge and the practice and practices on ways to exploit these opportunities with the world. Then to also optimize opportunities for individuals and SMEs and other entrepreneurs that are either domiciled in the province or see opportunities in those opportunities that we are going to showcase through the expo. Okay. Then we also try to utilize the highest advantage of entering the international market. When you look at Western Province shares one of the longest borders with Angola. Yes. Angola is one of the biggest markets in Africa. That's a fact. We are neighbors here with Namibia. We are in close proximity to Botswana. Now, when you look at the strategic geographic location of Western Province, you see a province which has a lot of potential to be a logistics hub of the Southern Province in terms of international trade. So these are the objectives that we are trying to gain from this expo in a nutshell.
Thank you for that. Just for the benefit of those that might know much about the Western Province, what you talked about an endowment of resources. What kind of resources exist in the province?
Number one, in terms of size, the landmass, the area, Western Province is at the moment the biggest province that we have in Zambia, 126,386 square kilometers. When you look at that, it will tell you that this province alone is bigger than some countries that we have by far. So land is a resource. That's number one. Number two, just in the Western Province alone, we have a number of national parks which are which present opportunities for tourism development. We have the Liwa National Park, for example, and it might interest you to know. That is why the objective is to showcase investment opportunities that are in the Western Province. Because when we talk about the Liwa National Park, you know the Liwa National Parks host the second largest wildebeest migration
Yes.
in the world, second only to the Serengeti. Now, you never knew that probably. One of our
I did. But yeah, go ahead.
Uh, okay, so that's the Liwa National Park in Kalabo District in Western Province. Now, that alone is a huge, presents huge tourism opportunities. Those are the potentialities that we want to showcase. Are we able to create
So
an economy around that? And I just mentioned one, by the way. We have the Sioma Ngwezi in Sioma District. We have the Ngonye Falls in Sioma District. We have the Simalaha Conservancy in Mwandi. Now, the Simalaha Conservancy is part of the Kavango Zambezi Transfrontier Conservation. Now, that's the world's biggest conservation program, also domiciled in the Western Province. It's including countries like Angola, Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe, where a conservation corridor has been created. And when you go to Mwandi, you are going to see a sanctuary. Not only that, we have over 550 hectares of land in the Barose floodplains. Now, that is an area which is rich in terms of soil content for production of such crops as rice. When you go to Sukongo district right now, they've started growing wheat. And when we talk about wheat, there isn't much we can say. The world at the moment, we are almost going into a wheat crisis due to what is happening in certain sections of the world where production has gone low. Now, the opportunity we are trying to present is that in the Western Province, we have this vast land which is available for commercial production, which has remained unexploited hitherto. So those are some of the opportunities we are trying to present, to showcase.
Thank you for that, Mr. Nyambe. Some of the things you've mentioned, Sioma Ngwezi, Liwa National Park, and the others, these have been in existence, right? The wild beast migration, this has been happening. So why now? Why showcase these opportunities through an expo?
So you bring a very good case. That why now?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the alternative to that question is why not now?
Political alternative.
Yeah. You see, what I'm trying to say is the opportunities, the resources are there. Because you mentioned them, I mentioned them, that is proof enough they are there.
Right.
And now we come to a point where we look at the availability of these resources and say, could we do more with these resources?
Mm-hmm.
So if the answer is yes, we can do more with these resources, then my question stands. Why then not do it now?
Now, right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about the wild beast migration, right, and the opportunities that exist. In the past, have you been able to capture how many visitors Western Province attracts during the wild beast migration? That's question number one. Question number two, what are the opportunities for the local people? Do we have people that own lodges, that own transportation? So in a nutshell, what opportunities accrue to the local people?
Yes. Firstly, in relation to the wild beast migration, it might interest you to know that Kalabo district, the host of the wildebeest migration, has currently one hotel which is owned by Time and Tide,
Okay.
which is in the Liwa National Park. Now, it might interest you to know that the hotel which is in the Liwa National Park only has about 14 rooms, give or take. That 14, give or take. Now, the world beast migration is an event of global proportions. We say it is the second largest in the world. Now,
Mm.
how can you have an area with the second largest migration of wildebeest in the world, having only one hotel, and that hotel only has 14 rooms?
Hmm.
You see my point?
Yes.
My point is the national park itself, it presents huge opportunities for developments in the tourism sector, hospitality, safari tours, campsites, and the like.
Right.
Now, the economy of Kalago district alone, when we talk about opportunities which might accrue to the locals, not only to the locals, but other entrepreneurs,
Right.
uh, the economy of Kalago alone can be built around the Liwa National Park. How? Number one, the the park at the moment is on the lower side in relation to bed space which is available. Number two, naturally, when you have a lot of hoteliers coming in to build accommodate, to build infrastructure
Right.
in Kalawo district, infrastructure to survive from the park,
Right.
naturally, what is going to happen is these hoteliers will definitely advertise their offerings.
Okay.
And as they advertise their offerings, they'll have to mention the Liwa National Park and other things that are surrounding the park. So
Definitely.
the park uh, definitely starts to gain prominence from there on.
Right.
One of the reasons why the tourism arrivals are so low at the moment is because we have done so little in relation to advertising and the marketing. But
Okay.
then the question is, you cannot market the wildebeest migration as a wildebeest migration
Mm.
because you need to market the tourism product around the migration. I want you
Absolutely.
to come and see the migration because I want you to come and sleep in my lodge. I want you to
Absolutely.
come and see the migration. You eat from my restaurant. I want you to come and see the migration. You fly in and I'll transport you from where you arrive to where the migration is happening from and take you back. So
Okay.
when you look at the pertaining scenario, really, it is you might point at marketing, which is what we are trying to do
To do
right
right.
now through the expo,
Right.
to
So, Mr. Nyambe.
showcase. Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Nyambe, outside of the wild beast migration, right? I'm assuming that is the only time you see a mass influx of visitors in Calabo, correct?
Now, yes, and
Okay.
yes, in that the wildebeest migration is quite a spectacle,
Okay.
but no, in that the Liwa National Park is not a seasonal park.
Hmm.
The wildebeest migration is just one of the offerings that
Right.
the Liwa National Park has. And
Right.
maybe we have overstated the wildebeest migration
Right.
because it is of global proportions. But the
So,
Liwa National
is there any mechanism to capture the number of visitors to Liua National Park? And the reason I ask this question, for me, I think it's pertinent to know that hey, outside of the wildebeest migration, we have 2,000 visitors at the park. During the wildebeest migration, there's an increased 1,000 extra. You know what I'm saying? And the reason is I want to make sure that we have these tourist spots and we are making full use of them. which probably speaks to how well we're able to market Liua National Park, for instance.
Liua National Park is currently being managed by African Parks. So in relation to the tourism arrival, really, maybe I might not have the accurate statistics to
Right.
authoritatively present to the world on a broadcast like this. I mean,
Right.
my numbers might be contested.
Right.
My numbers might be contested, but safe to say, what we are trying to say is there lies in a huge opportunity for development in the tourism sector surrounding that one resource.
Right.
And at the moment, the available facilities in Kalabo, for example,
Mm-hmm.
could do more in relation to the tourism arrivals if we built the infrastructure around that.
Right.
And thus, here we are through this expo calling on investors to come and see the opportunity that is here for their money to grow through this product alone.
Okay.
Now, that is about the Liua National Park and the Kalao districts. What if we talk about the Komboka ceremony, for example?
Right. Right.
What if we talk about the Nayuma Museum? Is some of the tourism products that are available in the Western Province. When you look at, for example, if we look at Sioma, the Ngonye Falls.
Right.
Now, it might interest you to note that the Victoria Falls it is high in terms of the drop,
Mm-hmm.
but the Ngonye Falls is wide in terms of expanse. It
So,
has over.
good point. So let me ask you this: for somebody to visit the Ngonya Falls, do they pay a fee?
A very minimal fee. It would
Oh,
have been misuse of this precious time to talk
mm,
about it.
mm.
It's in cents, really.
How much is it?
It
Just,
it is 70 about $1.
okay.
$1 at the moment to pass through the gate into the falls,
Mm,
into the area, into the area around the falls.
mm.
I remember it's about 17 kwacha somewhere there about. That's about $1.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what kind of other activities. We talk about value addition, right? So even in visiting the falls, there's value addition in terms of activities, kayaking, maybe fishing and the like. Are those activities included in the 17 kwacha or not?
No. Those are not included in the 17 kwacha.
Hmm.
And there, that is what brings us back to why now? Why this expo?
Right.
Because we have this natural resource, the Ngonye Falls, but there is no supportive infrastructure around it to extend the length of stay for tourists when they come to see it. It's a spectacle. It's a marvel. I'll be able to share a few pictures with you away from this interview so that you can
Right.
see what we are talking about.
Right.
But when you go into Sioma,
Mhm.
does it have adequate accommodation to host the tourists? At the moment, there is world class accommodation in Sioma. I can tell you that
Mhm.
I've been there. I've been there more than once.
Mhm.
But can Sioma have more?
Right.
Because when we have more of such,
Right.
naturally, the hoteliers are going to advertise their products. And
Right.
by advertising their products, they have to mention the falls as
Absolutely.
what part of the scenery that they are offering.
Mhm.
That in itself is going to increase tourism arrivals. And when the tourists come, they need to eat, they need to move, they need tour guiding, and they
Right.
need many other activities which are going to help them settle there. That is why we come to this expo as Western Province and present the Ngonye Falls as part of the tourism offerings, which present potential for, for growth. Now, it might interest you to note that at the moment, the government of the Republic of Zambia is trying to promote what is being called the Southwest Tourism Corridor. The
Okay.
Southwest Tourism Corridor is a tourism package which includes Livingstone. You start with the Victoria Falls. From Victoria Falls, you come to Mwandi. It is a linear product.
Uh-huh.
From Livingstone, you come to Mwandi district. In Mwandi, you find the Simalaha Conservancy. Now, the Simalaha Conservancy itself is a tourism complex.
Right.
You find it's a beautiful concept where the community has resuscitated a previously depleted forest
Ah.
back into a thriving game reserve.
Ah.
They have uh, I stand to be corrected, over 3,000 over 3,000 animals in
Right.
the over 3,000 animals of a particular species,
Right.
uh, just within within the Simalaha alone.
Right.
It is a beautiful concept for a
Right.
traveling tourist to come and see what is in Mwandi in the Simalaha, where you find a beautiful arrangement similar to that one which is in the Lua, where you find animals and human settlements coexisting.
Mhm.
So the Southwest Tourism Corridor would start from Livingstone, where you land and arrive.
Yeah.
You come to Mwandi. From Mwandi, you come to Sioma. From Sioma, you come to Mongu District. In Mongu District, you find the Nayuma Museum. You find that is where the Litunga resides. Limurunga is home of the Komboka. And then you proceed to Kalabo and
Okay.
end in the Biwa. So basically, this tourism product, what it's trying to do is to extend the length of stay of tourists when they come to this part and enjoy this tourism complex which we are offering. So
Great.
basically, our message is very basic.
Right.
The natural infrastructure to support investments is here, the scenery to guarantee growth for your money, the proximity in relation to international connectivity. What is lacking or what is not there now is the information. This information has not reached the potential investors. So we
So,
deliberately now through this expo bring these investors and bring the world into one space and tell them we have one, two, three, and we guarantee growth for your money because of this if you invest in this infrastructure.
so the expo, Mr. Nyambe, is under the theme Rapid Economic Transformation through Increased Homegrown Entrepreneurship. One of the opportunities the expo provides is investments. What kind of investors are you looking for? Is it local investors, local as in Zambian investors, or foreign investors?
Yes. So the theme is the rapid economic transformation through rapid economic transformation through homegrown investments, value addition, and trade.
And trade.
Now, all those things brought together. Homegrown. What do we mean when we talk about homegrown investment? By
Mhm.
homegrown, simply, we are not trying to say this should be investment which is born and bred within the boundaries of this province. We
Right.
are speaking to sustainable development, sustainable entrepreneurship. You know that sustainable development, one of the key tenets of it is it must be it must be responsive to the needs of that particular location.
Right.
So by homegrown, we mean the investment opportunities have been identified by the locals. You
Mhm.
see, we have initiated the development process as the Western Province by bringing this expo together. So the concept itself, number one, is homegrown.
Right.
Number two, homegrown in that we encourage that whilst we advertise these investment opportunities to everyone else in the world, we are hoping that we are not going to alienate any of the potential investors who are within our boundaries, within our country, to also invest. Is there a possibility, for example, that whilst we are having this broadcast, it's
Mhm.
not only the people in the diaspora or across our borders that
Right.
did not actually know that we have such a potential lying
Right.
dormant, and
Right.
we have some of our locals. So when we are calling in for investors,
Right.
we are not picking. We do not look at where the investor is going to come from. We encourage local investment as much as we welcome foreign investment.
Are
Now,
there
there's
are there any barriers to investing in this sector, specifically in the Western Province?
that question would be a bit broad
Mhm.
and very difficult for me to give a precise answer. Barriers to
So
investing.
maybe let me clarify
So,
that.
so, so, so,
Are there any laws that create a barrier for local entrepreneurs, local as in Zambian, okay,
mhm.
local entrepreneurs to invest in this sector?
Uh, none that I know.
Okay.
There are no barriers for local entrepreneurs to invest in these sectors.
Okay.
Reason I say so is at the moment, our local entrepreneurs, our local investors have invested in these sectors already
Okay.
at the margin that they have been able to support based on the level of liquidity and things like those.
Right.
So in terms of a barrier, really, the only barrier might
Mhm.
be the financial aspect.
Okay.
Do they have enough resources to
Right.
boost this economy to proportions which you and me might be impressed with?
Right.
That one might be the only barrier. But in terms of legislation, which stops them from investing, uh, that one is not there. If any, there is legislation which encourages them to
Right.
actually invest in these sectors.
Awesome. Mr. Nyambe, what is the role of the Zambia National Tourist Board in ensuring that the Western Province Expo is a success?
The role of Zambia National Tourism Board really is to, among other things, package the investment opportunities which are there, which are coming to this point. They have been pivotal in terms of, tourism is in the service industry really.
Yes.
So it needs someone with a special eye to look and actually say that this scenario you are seeing here is actually a tourism offering. So the Zambia National Tourism Board is pivotal in terms of packaging these investment opportunities and also marketing them. I talked about the Southwest Tourism Corridor. Now,
Right.
that tourism package is a production or a concept developed by the Tourism Board. At the moment, we have the Zambia Tourism Agency.
Mhm.
So that concept itself is their product. They are better placed to talk about it. They conceived it, they packaged it, and coming to this expo, it is really their role to market it.
Okay. In 2017, Luapula held the Luapula Expo. What lessons have you learned from that expo that you can take advantage of in hosting the Western Province Expo?
One of the lessons we learned from Wapula, and I must say we've been consulting a lot with our brothers and sisters from Wapula in doing what we have been trying to do. And then the other thing you need to understand is these expos are conducted under the Ministry of Commerce and Trade in Zambia,
Okay.
who are the ones that, to a larger extent, had an input into the Wapula Expo. It's
Okay.
their mandate to ensure that these expos are a success, and at the moment they are working with the Western Province uh, Expo Organizing Committee to ensure that we do not replicate the results of Wapula, but we produce results based on, among other things, an advantage of the lessons learned from the Wapula Expo. Now, one of the major lessons we learned from the Wapula Expo is that in the process of organizing expos,
Hmm.
some have organized carnivals
Right.
instead of having a business forum.
Right.
So one of the major lessons we learned from the Wapula Expo is that over and beyond the mass gathering of delegates at the expo,
Hmm.
it is equally important to do targeted marketing to investors for these investment opportunities.
Right.
It is important for me to engage with you. You know, this conversation that we are having is very important
Right.
because from your end, you notice the offerings which we have, and you are able to directly talk to a prospective investor, for example, who might have interest in that area to say, we have this, and these opportunities. Specificity is very important. Again, that's another lesson which we learned from the Lapua.
Right.
You don't just stand on a molehill and say, come to Western Province and invest in agriculture. We are able to produce wheat. I should be
Absolutely.
able to tell you that, for example, when you come to Western Province, we are developing a farm block.
Right.
There is so many hectares of land, and the land is in this direction. I can take you to the site and show you where you can invest or you can invest from. So
Right.
we have learned to be specific in terms of the investment opportunity we offer. We have learned also to be specific in terms of the investors that we want to attract. But at the same time, we have learned from Wapula not to be selective when it comes to who we market to, because at
Okay.
the end of the day, an investor has no label.
Okay.
They come as human beings, they invest, and it might do you no good to be
Quick
selective.
question. So,
Yes,
quick question for you. Have you incorporated any of the coordinators for the Luapula Expo in your organizing committee?
we have incorporated some people that have been very key in organizing the Wapula Expo, for example. You might be interested to note that we have a gentleman from previously at the Ministry of Commerce,
Okay.
Trade and Industry, who has been attached to the Western Province as an advisor
Okay.
to this particular expo. So, in other words, government has allocated to us a consultant
Okay.
who is coming from the organizing of the Wapula Expo. So
Okay.
we have actually in-house support
Great.
from the
Let's.
experiences of not only the Wapula Expo but many other expos. Because it might interest you to note that at this moment in time, we've had over 7 expos in Zambia. The Wapula was just one of them.
Right.
So the second expo might have learned from the Wapula Expo. The
Absolutely.
third one might have learned from that and the Wapula Expo. Now
Right.
we are about the eighth. So we have actually a larger selection of experience to
Experience.
learn from, more than just Wapula.
Awesome. Viewers, just in case you're just joining us, this is TV Bakwetu, and we are hosting Mr. Wamunyema Nyambe talking about the Western Province Tourism, Investments, and Trade Expo, which takes place in Mongo, I believe, September 19th to the 25th, 2022. Let's shift gears here, Mr. Nyambe. Marketing. What marketing efforts have you used so far in showcasing why the expo, and just exposing the entire event to the global sphere?
Thank you very much. One of the marketing tools which we have used and which we are using to market this expo is this conversation that we are having on this your
Of
global
course,
platform.
of
On
course.
your global platform. This opportunity you have given us is something very important. We really appreciate your support. You are giving us a global reach. Uh, Away from that, we have tried to equally as the Western Province Expo also go and participate as exhibitors at most of the expos which have been hosted around. We were at the EU Zambia Business Forum
Hmm.
as a province, and I can tell you we got very important. We got important additions to our existing network from the EU Business Forum.
Okay.
We were at the Zambia Agriculture and Commercial Show. Coming from there, we created linkages with our colleagues, say from Botswana, Burundi. We have been on social media, we have been on radio, we
Okay.
have produced publications, we have produced flyers, and we have also engaged in direct marketing through our partner networks. I can tell you we've forged very important networks in the process of organizing this expo going forward. We have a relationship with Prospero, for example, that is UK Ed Business Forum.
Okay.
Now, that is an international network
Right.
that has managed to link us also to their networks in terms
Right.
of publicizing our expo, and not only doing that, but also attracting the right people to come to this expo
Awesome.
through partnerships and the communication through our networks. We
Right.
have Musika, for example, which is another network of global repute in the field of agriculture. We
Right.
have the Worldwide Fund for Nature. The Worldwide Fund for Nature has come in as a very strong partner to this expo. Now, when we talk about WWF, we are talking about brands with a global footprint.
Great.
So these are some of the methods that we have used to try and get out our message across about this expo. Now,
Awesome.
before you ask me another question, let me ask myself a question.
Right.
What we have done, is it enough? Can
That's
we
that's a
do more?
that's a good question.
Okay, if it's a good question, then you can answer it for me.
No, 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 no. You are the coordinator, and you have optics to what you guys have done so far, and I say it's a good question because I think you're trending in the right direction to make sure that the expo is a success, right? So, have you done enough preparation?
Eh, eh, I'm thinking at this point in time, really, we have done so much,
Great.
and we've not done it singularly,
Okay.
but we've done it with the partnerships that we have been able to forge going forward.
Great.
So I asked that question deliberately because the answer I'm trying to bring across is the level of partnerships and the networks that we have forged up to this point have gotten us this far.
Right.
More partnerships will get us further.
Right.
You see
Awesome.
what I mean? So
Great.
basically, that is an appeal to the global community and appeal to the friends of the Western Province and the friends of Zambia that we have this undertaking which we are currently doing. We have this group that has come together to try and get us this far, but our doors are still open for
Great.
more and further partnerships to ensure that we get these messages across.
Okay. So
Uh,
guide our viewers here and those obviously interested in attending the expo. Where can they get more information about the expo? Do you have a website? Any contacts?
yes. So thank you very much. So we have a website,
Mhm.
and that website is one of the biggest tools in our toolkit
Okay.
that has helped to give us a global reach. The address is www.wes.gov.zm/expo.
Great.
www.wes.gov.zm/expo. Now, when you go to that website, you are going to find a lot of resources to give you an insight about what is there in the Western Province in terms of opportunities, be it in agriculture, be it in mining, be it in manufacturing, be it in tourism. Not only that, the registration process to coming to this expo really is fully online.
Okay.
It's an online based registration system. On our website, you are going to find where you can simply click. A form will be availed to you. You populate that form and submit. We'll be able to receive your registration and any other associated registration fees. We also have an online payment system
Oh,
which
great.
is able to take in multiple forms of
The
payment
payment.
methods, be it Visa,
Okay.
MasterCard. If you are in Zambia, our payment system takes
Mobile money.
all, all mobile money transactions across all the networks that we have in Zambia.
That's excellent.
So, yes, thank you very much. So that is what we have in our toolkit as part
Okay.
of what we are going to use to publicize this expo.
Awesome. Let's talk about accreditation fees. I know there are different categories of accreditation fees. Would you like to give our viewers and potential visitors to the expo a breakdown?
Yes, accreditation fees for this expo are twofold. There is accreditation for exhibitors and also accreditation for delegates. Now, when you look at the accreditation for delegates, the accreditation for delegates have been put in categories from VVIP delegate up to the ordinary delegate. So for international delegates, we have a flat accreditation fee of 450 US dollars. That is for international delegates. It is 450 for for across for that accreditation gives you what is equivalent of VVIP access.
Okay.
For our local delegates, we have accreditation for top business executives, and anyone else who might be interested in accrediting in that category of VVIP at 5,500 kwacha. Then we have a VIP delegate who gets accredited at 4,500 kwacha. Then we have a regular delegate who gets accredited at 3,000 kwacha. Then you have a local delegate who gets accredited at 1,000 kwacha. Now, the different bands of accreditation in relation to those categorization will give you access to different activities and
Mhm.
events which are going to take place at the expo. For example, as a VVIP delegate, you get access to the presidential forum, for example. You
Okay.
gain access to the business to business meetings. You gain access to facilitative meetings like the business to government meetings, which are going to take place right at the expo. And also you take part in the conferences and the breakaways, which are going to take place right at the expo venue. In addition to that, your accreditation also gives you access to be part of certain sector tours. For example, if you are planning to, if your interest is in the field of agriculture, for example,
Mm-hmm.
we'll give you a tour to Sioma. Will take you to existing commercial farmers. We have commercial farmers in the Western Province that are producing for large global chain stores. So
Great.
I'll take you to a farm and show you that actually crops like potatoes, bulb onions, and things like those, they perform better in the quality and the type of soils which we have in the Western Province. Now, I wouldn't want to tell you that story.
Right. Right.
I want to take you to a farm
Right.
where you can witness the harvest,
Right.
where you can interview someone who is on the ground in case there are other challenges. The question you ask, are there impediments to investing in the Western Province?
Mhm.
You wouldn't want to end at listening to me, a
Right.
person who is marketing the expo,
Right.
as so I would love to give you a tour
Right.
to say, for example, Barose Ranching and Cropping, which
Right.
is being run by our colleague Philip Meyer, so that you can talk to a fellow businessman, a fellow entrepreneur, and they explain to you the process of investing in
Mhm. Okay.
agriculture and why they have chosen this. So
That's that's
your
awesome.
session would give you access to those.
That is awesome, Mr. Nyambe. Thank you for that elaborate share. So, for the viewers, if you have any questions, feel free, type them. I don't guarantee that I will ask our guest all the questions, but feel free to ask your questions. Let's move on to this event. Starts in exactly a month or less. Are you comfortable with the preparations? And then share with us the responses in terms of delegates. Are you seeing the numbers increasing by the day?
Thank you very much. Now, one of the categories which we have not talked about, we talked about exhibitors, we also talked about delegates.
Mhm.
We've not talked about sponsors and sponsorship packages.
Right.
Now, I talk about sponsorship. Yeah, of course, you know, I might have a bias towards bringing as many players on board as possible. But I talk about sponsorships now in response to that question because I want to show, to demonstrate the kind of response
Right.
which we are seeing from the business community and the other participants. Our sponsorship packages range from platinum, which is 500,000. Then we have a gold sponsor at 350, a diamond sponsor at 250, a bronze sponsor at 150,000. Among these sponsorship packages, we have big name sponsors that have come on board to sponsor this event. Just the day before yesterday, Friday, the Honorable Minister of Western Province, Honorable Kapelo Mbangweta, was receiving a check from Workers' Compensation Fund for diamond sponsorship. Now, if I start listing the sponsors over my head, I might not
Right. You
do
don't have to. Yeah.
one of the sponsors a service because
Right.
the the response has been massive and I might
Correct.
miss one, but I can tell you we have 3 or 4 banks. We have two. We have a bank that has come through as a platinum sponsor. I've already told you what platinum is. We
Right.
have other banks that have come through as diamond sponsors. We have individuals that have come through to donate specific aspects, cost items on our budget. I can tell you we have a serious relationship with the Worldwide Fund for Nature, who have come through, who are sponsoring certain aspects of what needs to be done. So, in relation to the response, really,
Right.
as one of the key organizers, I'll tell you, we are overwhelmed. In
So Mr.
relation
Yambe.
to the delegate numbers,
Okay, great.
wait,
That,
Mr.
that,
Chief.
that's what I wanted you to address, the delegates. You've
Yes,
enumerated the sponsors. I'm happy. The
yes.
delegates, because we can have 1,000 sponsors and only 20 delegates. My and the
Exactly.
reason is,
Yes.
I think for me, it's the delegates that will attend the expo that will look at massive opportunities and bring investments. So that's why I'm
And
more interested in the delegates.
I agree. I agree with you totally. So, in relation to the delegates to
Mhm.
this expo, as we speak now, our target has been to attract up to 1,500 delegates to the expo. Because I did not do an audit on the system, uh, by close of business on Friday, I might not be able to give you an
Right,
actual number.
right,
But one of the parameters that I can tell you is, at this point as we speak, a lot of what we have been doing from Monday to Friday last week, especially, has been to facilitate accommodation bookings
right,
for the delegates that are coming to this expo.
right,
Now, I can safely tell you that as we speak now, over 60% of accommodation in the Western Province has already been, in
Mongo.
Mongo district, for
Yes,
example,
right,
about 50 to 60% of the available bed space has already been booked for the period 18th to 26th September. So that in itself already says much about the response from the delegates.
right.
So we have equally massive response from the delegates as much as we have from the sponsors and the companies which are coming to exhibit and the individuals.
Okay,
So the
great.
response for now is good. Eh, but if you ask me as an organizer, I would have loved a situation where by close of business this week, by
Right,
Friday this week,
right.
the the accommodation available in Mongo is taken 100%.
Right,
And I wish
and
we could
and
have.
and, and we're going to feel another 20% just after the show, because as you're aware, TV Bakwetu is global, right? So there's so many people that will watch this show or are watching this show, and they're saying, "Oh wow, I didn't know there's going to be Western Province Expo. Let me look at my bank account and start planning, to attend this event." But one thing I'm a major proponent of is our people. Opportunities must exist and must be given to our people. We talked about accreditation fees. I think the minimum is 5,500 kwacha. So for a startup tourism company owned by a Zambian, right? Isn't that
Yes.
a little steep? Isn't that too much? Couldn't you have had a category where you're saying you accommodate startups and say, hey, 1,500 or 2,000 kwacha as accreditation fee?
Thank you very much. Uh, Again, I totally agree. I totally agree with what you are saying. Remember, we had the conversation about homegrown at the beginning of this conversation,
Yes,
where we were saying the homegrown aspect is to ensure that we take along the local entrepreneurs in this country
mhm,
in the development process. So what you just said actually speaks to that. So in relation to accreditation fees, for example, you would notice that we talked of the 3,000 kwacha, the 5,000 kwacha, and the 1,000 kwacha. Now, 1,000 kwacha is how many dollars for the sake
Uh,
of the professional audience to make sense
uh,
of the conversation?
Probably about 70, 80, I think. The rate keeps changing.
Yeah, and keep change. But for the local delegates, we have an accreditation fee which we are calling the homegrown accreditation, which is actually below 1,000 kwacha, which is at
Excellent.
500,000 kwacha.
No,
Now,
you mean
the
you mean
500
500 kwacha.
500 kwacha, not
Ah, there
500.
you go. You almost scared that homegrown entrepreneur to move from 5,500 to 500,000.
Five, exactly. So we
No,
have
great.
one which is at 500 kwacha for the local, for the homegrown delegate.
Okay.
Even the exhibitor fees,
Okay.
because the idea is we want the local entrepreneur to equally come to the expo with their business proposition
Okay.
that maybe they can find incubation from other
Yes.
uh, uh, investors at the expo. We
Yes.
want a local entrepreneur to come with their good idea, which they have failed to fund or they have only funded to a certain extent, and
Yes.
demonstrate like that. Look, I have this concept where I'm producing chickens. The
Yes.
market is there in Angola. At
Yes.
the moment, I'm producing 1,000 chickens every 3 months.
Right.
If I had an investor that is able to invest into this project, we can produce 800, 900,000 chickens per week, and our market is already existing in Angola. You can, it might interest you to note that Angola, for example, that is a fact which is on record, buys over 400 million US dollars worth of chickens
Wow.
annually, and now
Is
ask
that
me
is
where.
that from Zambia? They buy from us.
Now that is where the problem is,
Okay.
because we have a neighbor who is a big buyer, and they buy those chickens from Brazil, they buy them from Portugal, they buy them from Europe. Let me tell
Okay.
you that.
Okay.
Now, why can't I produce in the Western Province targeting that market? That's why we are talking about trade, and we are talking about at the moment we are talking about the Continental Free Trade Area. So we are trying to, we have another statistic which is not very good for Africa, for example, where intra-Africa trade only accounts for about 17%,
Right.
17%. And
Right.
then how much does Africa ship into Africa, and how much what does Africa ship out of Africa? You see, we
Yeah.
find
I know.
ourselves as African countries, for example, buying things externally that can be bought from our neighbors. So we are trying to enhance that. And the problem really is about our levels of production.
Okay. That's a topic
If
that
Angola now, if Angola,
Mr. Nyambe,
yes,
that's a great topic, but it's a topic for another day. And I've had forums where we've brought up these issues, and quite frankly, when something like this comes up again, I think I'll invite you. Let's talk
thank you.
about the expo. What mechanisms do you have in place to make an assessment of whether the event was a success or a failure after the event? That's question number one. Question number two: what do you want to see 5 years from September 25th, 2022? Having held the expo, what changes would you like to see as a result of the expo?
Thank you very much. Now, the mechanism to evaluate the success or the failure of the expo really is set out at the very beginning of the planning to host this expo.
Mhm.
The expo is an investment marketing opportunity. How much investment are we going to have in the Western Province after this expo? So the success of this expo really does not lie in the numbers of delegates that are going to show up or the numbers of exhibitors that are going to show up. But its success really lies in the amount of business deals which are going to be signed from here. What is our baseline in terms of employment in the province? Where do we take this the employment level in the province after, say, give me a year or two after now? That is one of the ways through which we are going to judge the failure or the success of the expo. Secondly, how open is Western Province going to be in relation to trade facilitation? How much in terms of what is going to be our export value as a province, outside the province, and as a country outside the country? For example, at the province, at the moment, this province contributes about 2%, 2.9% thereabout to the national GDP. Now, you cannot have the largest province in the country contributing so little in terms in terms of the national GDP. So one of the ways through which we are going to evaluate the success or the failure of this expo
Mhm.
is seeing what economic contribution in quantitative terms this
Right.
province will be contributing to the national economy going forward.
Right.
So the means of evaluating the success or the failure of this expo actually are laid bare
Right.
in the statistics that we are trying to overturn through the expo that we have organized.
Great. One of the contributions by our viewers was he hopes that you engage professional event managers and not substandard ones. Can you assure our viewers, delegates, that you have engaged professional event managers?
Thank you very much. As we speak now, we have engaged an event management company. Uh, I don't know if I'm at liberty to mention the company, but one of the things I can tell you, hey, now it takes me back to the question you asked about Wapula Expo and the experience and things like those.
Yes.
Part of our event management team that have been hired, the event management consultants that are organizing the Western Province Expo, actually are the same individuals that were part of the event management companies that participated in the Wapula Expo.
Yeah.
So, in relation to the quality of our event managers, I can tell you we have hired the best.
Okay.
In relation to the experience of our event managers, I can tell you we have one of the event management consultants going about Western Province Expo with some of the highest experience in event management in Zambia.
Okay.
So on that part, I can ask the viewer to rest easy. Your
Right.
concern has been tackled and tackled very well.
That is excellent. Okay, so for those simply joining us or just joining us, we're talking to Mr. Wamnyima Nyambe, and we are talking about the Western Province Expo, which takes place September 19th to the 25th, 2022. It's under the theme Rapid Economic Transformation through Increased Homegrown Entrepreneurship, Value Addition, and Trade. Ms. Anya, to achieve some of these goals of value addition and trade, we certainly need infrastructure, right? Can you share with us what kind of infrastructure exists in Mongo or Kalabo that would support such an initiative?
Thank you very much. So to again, I agree with with what you are saying. Some of the facilitative infrastructure which you need, for example, to spur things like manufacturing,
Mhm.
is electricity. I
Yes.
mean, do you have enough power to power big manufacturing industry needs?
Right.
At the moment, as we speak in the Western Province, we have Western Power Company, which is bringing in additional capacity in terms of the power which we have in Zambia uh, and Western Province. Number one, but number two, before we even go to itemizing the infrastructure which we have in the Western Province, uh, in capitalist economics, we believe that a gap identified is an incentive to an entrepreneur. So our clarion call is twofold. Where the infrastructure exists,
Lands. Right.
come make your money taking advantage of the infrastructure. And where you spot a in relation to the existing infrastructure, come put up that infrastructure as your investment and benefit from that identified gap. That is basically what it is. But having said that, road connectivity, you might wish to know that Western Province, as Western Province, we connect by land to
Mm-hmm.
Namibia and to Angola. That on its own, it shows that our connectivity can create this province as a logistics hub. So that is part of the infrastructure which we have. We have one of the arguably most expensive 34 kilometers of road in terms of the Mongu Kalabo Road, which is the bridge with the bridge over the Zambezi River, that creates seamless road connectivity over a floodplain and over waters leading you to into Angola. We have another bridge across the Zambezi on the Sioma Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
We connect to Northwestern Province. We connect to Northwestern Province. We connect to Lusaka. We have some of the longest borders existing with Angola, like I mentioned. We have connectivity to the Walvis Bay corridor through Namibia. So those are some of the infrastructure which we have. But over and above, the away from the infrastructure, the other resource which we have is the availability of land.
Right.
If land is available, it creates an opportunity for you to come and put that infrastructure. And when
Right.
you put that infrastructure as part of the logistics ecosystem in terms of manufacturing or whatever, at the moment globally, we have moved from creating all products from the same location. Now we talk
Right.
about global value chains.
Right.
So, what is it that we have in the Western Province that creates an opportunity for you to be part of the global value chains?
Right.
So, in terms of infrastructure, we are set
Okay.
to facilitate that process.
Okay. Uh, Again, Mr. Milimo Malambo has requested that we share the website. For those just joining us, the website for further information on the expo is www.wes.gov.zm/expo. And Mr. Davis Simbai, we appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for your time. He is suggesting you share this information on Twitter and Instagram. Have you done that? Do you have anything on Twitter or Instagram?
Unfortunately, we do not have a Twitter handle, but since he makes that suggestion, we
Yes.
can promise we are going to create that handle after that interview. We do not, we are not, we have no presence on Instagram.
Yeah.
Since he suggests, we are going to create presence also on Instagram as well. And his suggestion takes us back to our conversation. Like together we can do more to
Absolutely.
market this expo.
Right.
And now here is Mr. Malambo, who brings a suggestion as to what else we can do
Right.
to further the clarion call we are trying to
Right.
make on this expo. So he
Right.
brings in Twitter, he brings in Instagram, and automatically what we are going to get from Twitter and from Instagram will be an addition from the contribution of Mr. Malambo, and it is such contributions which are going to take us further. I'm grateful, Mr. Malambo. I'm
So you
assuming
see,
you are.
so you see, Mr. Nyambe, that TV Bakwetu is a global brand now. We have our viewers, who believe in us. They are watching, they're spreading the news, and I urge all of you that have tuned in today to please spread the word. I think word of mouth marketing is a very, very critical tool as well. We appreciate all that. So again, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Mr. Nyambe. We're going to be wrapping up here. We're talking about the upcoming Western Province Tourism Investments and Trade Expo from September 19th to the 25th, 2022 in Mongu. And Mr. Nyambe is one of the coordinators. Mr. Nyambe, we've been joined by Melvin Lisimba. Mr. Lisimba, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chanda.
Great, great. Do you have a question for Mr. Nyambe?
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to join the show. That's all.
Oh, great. Oh,
I have
great.
questions sometime.
Okay, great. We appreciate the time. Mr. Nyambe, we are talking about investors. And like I said, I want my people to be the investors. And the reason is to prevent capital flight. We have investors today in Zambia who own bank accounts outside the country. They expatriate Forex, right? They get our products, they sell out there, and they keep the money out there. They're only sending back operational funds for salaries, for maintenance here and there. How can we ensure that the investors we are trying to court in the Western Province will bank in the Western Province, reinvest in the Western Province to achieve the necessary growth? I'm not looking for investors who are going to expatriate their money and only provide employment to our people and pay them paltry salaries.
Yeah, thank you very much. There are two sides to that response. Firstly, one of the ways to ensure that the investors that are going to come through this expo are going to be the investors whom you just described,
Yes.
is to ensure that the model of investment that we encourage is that the investors come and partner with the local investors that exist. The local investors can have shareholding in those investments. It's much easier for the investors to simply come, look at existing investments, partner with us, partner with the locals through equity and other shareholding structure. That is number one. Number two, the alternative to that question is, you see, we've been complaining about capital flight as most of the countries have been complaining. So we are hoping that we can be able to create a generation of entrepreneurs. Mindset change is the most important thing that we are trying also to promote through this expo. To be able to create a generation of entrepreneurs that understands how business is being done globally, what a global value chain is, what a value chain naturally is, what role they can play in that value chain. For
Yes.
example, if there is a company that is producing vehicles in America, why can't I produce their cables from Zambia? and supply that company, and that way we are going to keep the capital in relation to the aspect of what we are producing in Zambia, while we supply them, and vice versa. We want, unfortunately, there is no country in the world, not a single country, that is not out in the market looking for foreign investments.
Absolutely.
Because the configuration of the global economy is that is in such a way that in the in the greater scheme of things, the global economy is a single unit. So unfortunately, for you to be able to survive in this single unit, you need to be active in your own area, to
Right.
invite foreign investment, so that you can be able to do trade with other areas using your foreign investment also as your contribution to the global economy. So I'm looking forward to the day when we are going to have those complaints of capital flight arising from other continents, because African investors are banking in African countries. So basically, we have to create the most optimal terms for these investors as they come, because unfortunately, it's wild out there. We are all trying to attract the same foreign investments. So the biggest and the most workable method we can do is, as local entrepreneurs, position ourselves to hold stake in these investments in one way or the other. Because at the end of the day, even myself as a Zambian, if I go and invest in China, at some point, my money has to find my way back home. Back home. So we
Right.
really cannot demonize these
So,
investors
so
for getting.
I'm glad you bring in the conversation of China. I would like to share something with you. Although this speaks to the laws in the country, right, which is beyond the purpose of this conversation we are having. But China ensures that foreign investors keep as much money in the country to develop China by way of taxation. A foreign corporate entity will be taxed at 25%, right? If they keep their money in China, if they want to expropriate their money, they are charged 45%. Can't we use that model, and let's stick to the Western Province, because this is a great initiative, and I would love to see the Western Province become the most developed province in our country. We have the resources. We have resources that are untapped. We're not getting value from those resources. So can't we maybe engage government at some point to say, look, we're trying to prevent capital flight from this province. We're trying to conserve as much capital in this province as possible. Don't you think a legislation like that would drive us closer to this goal?
Again, you make a very interesting proposition, especially that you also cite an example of the practice which is in China. But the only disadvantage I suffer is
Mm,
the limit in terms of the competence to respond on matters, especially which border on policy and
on policy.
legislation.
Mm, yes, absolutely.
It's clear what we are trying to organize is the promotion within the context of Western Province. But for me to either point in the direction that our policy as a country as a whole might take or might not take,
Right.
might be quite a stretch. But again, I look forward to the day when we have that conversation exhaustively, and
Awesome.
hoping by that time I would have the competence or the authority to actually comment on matters of
Oh yeah,
policy.
absolutely,
But
absolutely.
I, I,
Uh,
I, I, I appreciate the point you make.
Awesome, awesome. Viewers, we are talking to Mr. Wamunyima Nyambe, a coordinator for the Western Province Expo. Mr. Nyambe, you did say that you have learned some lessons from the Luapula Expo. Can you share with us any successes from that expo that have been shared with you, or that you have visually seen as, hey, benefits of that expo?
One of the results which have come from Western Expo, I mean from Luapula Expo, which are very positive, is that Workers' Compensation Fund Control Board, as an investor, has built a hotel in Luapula,
Okay.
arising from the Luapula Expo.
Okay.
Now, the gains in relation to job creation that is going to result from that alone is massive. There's been more trade influx between Luapula and as a province
Hmm?
and Congo.
Oh,
Corridors
great.
have been opened. We can talk about Mansa Sugar.
Okay.
All those are things which have come as a result of that expo. So the results are many, really, but those that we mentioned are the tangible ones. But there
Great.
is also an intangible result, which for me is outlives time, which is a mindset change to
Yes.
understand that even as a province as Wapula or as a province, Western Province, we are really players in the global economy. So we have to reconfigure and reposition ourselves to be able to be factors in that global economy. So the mindset change is
Right.
one of the most important results which are coming from these exports.
Great. Before we wrap up, let's briefly talk about again, back to local entrepreneurs, startup companies, right? This might be just my opinion, but I think one of the biggest problems that inhibits startup companies to grow is that companies are started on a whim, or just because somebody is doing such a business, let me start it as well, without appreciating the need for a proper business plan. Now, in relation to the expo, is that something that you plan on incorporating to help startups that are interested in investing in tourism, to help them write a business plan and appreciate the dynamics of business?
I don't know how many times through the life of this interview we are having that I'm going to keep on saying I agree with you, because again
most
I
people most people I interview agree with what I say, and the thematic response is great question.
so the observation you make is actually one of the lessons we have learned from previous expos.
Mhm.
We've had expos in which the local entrepreneurs, the local businesses went to the expo with ideas that, for lack of a better grammar, I might say, not investor ready.
Right.
So, as one of the key lessons which we have learned from the previous expos as Western Province Expo, we have a partnership with the Prospero Zambia Limited.
Mhm.
Now, Prospero is a business development entity which does a lot in relation to building capacity
Mhm.
in SMEs.
Great.
So, for the first time, and probably never done in any other expo that has been held in Zambia, 3 weeks ago, we had a business clinic or a training workshop for local entrepreneurs, trying to bring them up to speed on the aspects which you have just mentioned. The provincial minister was officiating at Dauphin, where Prospero had some of their best facilitators, international facilitators, that is, to come and train our entrepreneurs in the Western Province to know that, number one, when you go to a business expo, you don't go there with a fictitious idea.
Right.
Number two, when you are talking to an investor, this is what your pitch deck should look like. Basically, to explain that business is not established on whims, but you must have a clear plan that speaks numbers, that makes sense in investment terms. So that is one of the outstanding features that this expo has had. It might not have been big on the fanfare, big on the fireworks, big on the flowers, but it is definitely the biggest expo in Zambia when it comes to making business sense. It's the only expo which has taken time to create that capacity in the local entrepreneurs aforetime. So that is something that we are trying to attend to, and basically the objective is, number one, to ensure that our investors are not left out, our local investors are not left out, but number two, to ensure we create capacity in them to be able to sit at the table and talk investment with the investors and make sense by demonstrating sustainability of the business, the growth model, there are the projections and things like those. Now, those are not things, in Africa, in most part of Africa, you find that for the largest part, business people just grow into the business without proper mentorship, without proper training. And so we called for, we created an inventory of existing businesses and proposals and those that want to partner or to engage with investors. So we had our team of experts analyze the businesses. So as a first level screening, we say this business shows potential, this shows potential, this shows potential. So we brought those together, brought some of the best teams of international facilitators to say, create capacity in these people to ensure that when they come to the expo, what they present is a business case, not not a catalog of dreams. So that's why I say I agree with you.
Right. So, Mr. Nyambe, the greatest enemy of a good conversation is time. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. Believe it or not, we've been talking for an hour and a half. That's how great. That's how great the conversation has been.
Like we've been here for 6 minutes.
But for the benefit of our viewers, to learn more about the Western Province Expo, please visit www.wes.gov.zm/expo. This has been an interview with the coordinator of the Western Province Tourism, Investments and Trade Expo for 2022, which starts September 19th and runs up until 25th September in Mongo. This is Mr. Wamunyema Nyambe. Sir, I would like to thank you so much for affording us an opportunity to showcase what is going to be happening, the great things that are going to be happening in the great province of Western Province. I wish you all the best. We have one more month till the start of the expo. Please don't be surprised if I reach out again so that we can look at, okay, what has been prepared, what are the expectations, and just amp the fanfare. But please do not forget, create a Twitter handle, post on Instagram. There's a bigger outreach out there. I thank you so much, sir. You have yourself a good afternoon and a good evening.
Thank you very much. We are grateful to Wakwetu TV for the opportunity, and wishing you all the best as well. Wow, we are really grateful you gave us this opportunity as the organizers of this expo.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.